Night had fallen over Phoenix, Arizona, but for Sarah, the darkness inside her apartment felt far more profound. For months, the sound of bounced checks and collection calls had become the soundtrack to her life. A dedicated nurse, she'd always believed in the security of her profession, but a series of unexpected medical expenses for her elderly mother, combined with a reduction in hours at the hospital, had pushed her into a financial abyss that seemed insurmountable. The piles of unpaid bills on her kitchen table were a silent monument to her despair. Sarah wasn't alone on this emotional roller coaster. In 2023, the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts reported a 16.8% increase in individual bankruptcy filings, a clear sign that many Americans face similar struggles. The truth is, bankruptcy is often not a consequence of laziness or irresponsibility, but rather the result of unforeseen events like health problems, job loss, or divorce, which can affect anyone, even good people who strive daily. What many don't realize is that before the final storm, there are clear warning signs. One such sign is the increasing reliance on credit cards to cover basic expenses, a vicious cycle that raises interest and digs you deeper. Another indicator is the lack of an emergency fund, turning any unforeseen event into a catastrophe. Sarah, for example, saw her small savings disappear in a matter of weeks with hospital costs. The inability to pay bills on time, ignoring calls from collectors, and the constant feeling of financial overwhelm are cries for help that are often silenced by fear and shame. The crucial lesson here is that identifying these red flags early is not a sign of weakness, but rather the vital first step to taking control of the situation. Ignoring them only deepens the crisis. Recognizing vulnerability is what allows you to seek help and change course before the shipwreck becomes inevitable. Starting to monitor your spending closely and being honest with yourself about your true financial situation is the foundation for any recovery. For Sarah, the first spark of hope came when she finally admitted to herself that she was in trouble and needed help understanding the complexity of finance, a step that would lead her to seek information about the bankruptcy process and perhaps a new beginning. David, a once proud restaurateur in bustling New York City, watched in disbelief as his dream crumbled. He'd poured his life savings and endless hours into the Gilded Spoon, a bistro that promised culinary delight. Yet, despite his passion and hard work, the doors were now permanently shuttered. His story, sadly, is a common one. While popular narratives often blame personal irresponsibility, experts point to a more complex web of factors behind the surge in bankruptcies. According to a 2023 study by LendingTree, the leading causes of individual bankruptcies in the U.S. frequently include medical expenses, job loss, and excessive use of credit. David's downfall, for instance, wasn't a single catastrophic event but a confluence of these elements. A sudden severe illness for his head chef, a key employee, led to unexpected medical bills, and a sharp decline in kitchen output, forcing him to hire expensive temporary replacements. This unforeseen operational cost hit his already tight margins hard. Simultaneously, a downturn in the local economy, exacerbated by rising inflation, meant fewer diners were willing to spend on fine dining. His revenue plummeted while his fixed costs remained stubbornly high. The temptation to bridge the gap with business credit cards became irresistible, piling on high-interest debt that quickly spiraled out of control. Many entrepreneurs, like David, find themselves in this precarious position, unaware of the broader economic currents and personal vulnerabilities that can sink even the most promising ventures. In fact, reports from the American Bankruptcy Institute highlight that a significant portion of personal bankruptcies are filed by individuals who have experienced a major life events such as a severe illness or divorce, underscoring that financial collapse is often less about moral failing and more about life's unpredictable punches. These experts emphasize that while individual choices play a role, external forces often act as powerful catalysts. Understanding these systemic causes, be it the rising cost of healthcare, a volatile job market, or the ease of accumulating high-interest debt, is crucial for anyone hoping to navigate the modern financial landscape. It's not just about managing money, but also about recognizing and preparing for the broader economic realities that can derail even the most well-intentioned individuals. David's journey from the vibrant glow of his restaurant to the stark reality of its closure is a testament to how quickly circumstances can change and how vital it is to understand the underlying causes of financial distress, not just the symptoms. Maria, a single mother from a small town in Oregon, stared at the eviction notice, her heart pounding with a rhythm of pure dread. The retail store where she worked had recently downsized, dramatically reducing her hours, leaving her with a dwindling income and a mounting pile of bills that seemed to multiply overnight. The fear was a cold, suffocating knot in her stomach, a constant companion that whispered doubts in her ear. Yet, even in the face of such overwhelming adversity, Maria refused to be swallowed by despair. Her situation, while intensely personal and dire, resonated with countless individuals across the nation who find themselves in similar financial freefall. Her journey, however, serves as a powerful testament that even from the deepest pits of financial despair, a path to recovery is not only possible, but achievable through deliberate, strategic, and often uncomfortable action. Experts consistently highlight that the first and arguably most crucial step in climbing out of the hole is to gain a clear, unflinching, and honest understanding of your financial situation. This isn't just about glancing at your bank balance. It means creating a meticulous, detailed budget, no matter how painful or confronting it might be. This budget must outline every single dollar coming in and, more importantly, every single dollar going out. Maria, recognizing she couldn't do it alone, bravely sought help from a free community financial counseling service. With their guidance, she began the arduous process of meticulously tracking her expenses. It was an eye-opening exercise. She was spending far more on seemingly small, everyday items: a daily coffee, impulse buys at the grocery store, forgotten subscriptions, than she had ever imagined. This act of confronting the numbers head-on, rather than avoiding them in a cloud of anxiety, proved incredibly empowering. It transformed an abstract fear into concrete data she could analyze and, critically, act upon. According to a 2024 survey conducted by the National Endowment for Financial Education, individuals who actively engage in budgeting and track their spending are significantly more likely to achieve their financial goals, demonstrating the direct link between awareness and success. The next essential step involves cutting unnecessary expenses ruthlessly. This isn't about embarking on a life of extreme deprivation, but rather about a rigorous exercise in prioritization. It means distinguishing between wants and needs and making difficult, but necessary, sacrifices. Maria, with newfound determination, canceled her seldom-watched cable subscription, stopped eating out entirely, and found creative, free ways to entertain her children, like trips to the library or local parks. These decisive cuts freed up essential funds that could then be redirected towards covering her most pressing needs, like rent and utilities, preventing her from sinking deeper into debt. Simultaneously, and often overlooked, is the critical action of negotiating with creditors. Many people are paralyzed by fear or embarrassment when it comes to contacting those they owe money to, but the reality is that creditors are often surprisingly willing to work with you on modified payment plans, especially if you demonstrate a genuine commitment to paying them back. Maria, emboldened by her progress, called her landlord and candidly explained her reduced income, successfully securing an extension on her rent payment. She also contacted her utility companies, setting up a staggered payment schedule that allowed her to avoid shutoffs. These proactive actions, born out of sheer necessity and a willingness to communicate, prevented her from falling further behind and accruing more late fees. Finally, and critically for long-term recovery, individuals need to actively explore avenues for increasing their income. Relying solely on cutting expenses can only go so far. This could manifest in various ways: picking up a second part-time job, exploring freelance opportunities, or even selling unused items around the house. Maria, recognizing the need for additional revenue, started babysitting for neighbors in the evenings and on weekends, diligently supplementing her reduced income. She also decluttered her apartment and sold some old furniture and unused electronics online, generating a small but incredibly helpful sum that provided immediate relief. Her story powerfully underscores that financial recovery is rarely a quick fix or a single magical solution. Instead, it is a demanding, iterative process composed of a series of intentional, often difficult steps that demand discipline, acute self-awareness, and a courageous willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about one's spending habits and financial standing. By systematically analyzing her finances, ruthlessly cutting non-essential costs, proactively negotiating with those she owed, and actively seeking new income streams, Maria slowly but surely began to rebuild her financial stability, gradually turning the tide from a desperate crisis to a path of renewed hope, genuine self-sufficiency, and a more secure future. The story of Robert, a former marketing executive in Atlanta, is a vivid testament to how a lack of financial education can bring down even the most outwardly successful individuals. Robert always earned a good salary, drove a luxury car, and enjoyed exotic vacations. He was living the American dream, or so it seemed. However, beneath this facade of prosperity lay a fragile financial foundation. Robert was an impulsive spender, living paycheck to paycheck, and his savings were practically non-existent. He didn't grasp the concept of compound interest working in his favor, only how it eroded his finances through his credit cards. His downfall came with an economic recession, which resulted in him losing his high-paying job. Without an emergency fund and with mounting debts, panic set in quickly. The truth is, financial education isn't just for economists or accountants. It's an essential life skill that, unfortunately, is often neglected in our educational system. Recent data from the Global Financial Literacy Excellence Center reveals that a significant portion of the adult population in the U.S. demonstrates low levels of basic financial literacy. This lack of understanding makes them inherently vulnerable to poor financial decisions and, consequently, to situations like bankruptcy. Common mistakes, such as not having a budget, failing to save for retirement, accumulating high-interest debt, and not understanding the critical value of an emergency fund, are all direct symptoms of this widespread educational gap. Robert's path to recovery began when he, humbled by his circumstances, finally admitted that he simply didn't know how to manage his money effectively. He sought out financial literacy workshops offered by a local nonprofit organization. In these courses, Robert learned to differentiate between assets and liabilities, understood the paramount importance of investing in himself, and, crucially, how to create a realistic and actionable financial plan. He came to realize that building wealth isn't solely about how much money you earn, but rather about how much you manage to save and invest intelligently. One of the most impactful lessons for him was about the 50-30-20 rule, allocating 50% of your income for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings and debt repayment. While this is a general guideline, it provided Robert with a clear and actionable framework for the very first time. Robert's transformation was gradual, but profoundly impactful. He diligently cut unnecessary expenses, sold his luxury car, and began searching for a new job with a completely different perspective. More importantly, he developed a new mindset towards money, shifting from viewing it as a means for ostentation to seeing it as a powerful tool for security and freedom. His example powerfully demonstrates that the true power of financial education lies in empowering individuals to make informed decisions, avoid common pitfalls, and build a solid financial future, regardless of their starting point. It's not about inheriting a fortune, but about possessing the knowledge to manage what you have with wisdom and prudence. Ricardo's life, that of a graphic designer in San Francisco, seemed to have stalled after a painful divorce, left him with unexpected debts and alimony payments that squeezed his already tight budget. He found himself trapped in a vicious cycle. His salary barely covered the bills, leaving nothing left to save or invest. The idea of side income felt like a distant luxury, and investment sounded like something for millionaires, not for someone struggling to make ends meet each month. However, Ricardo would soon discover that the key to his recovery wasn't just cutting expenses, but also increasing his cash flow and making his money work for him, even in small amounts. The truth is, for many people on the brink of bankruptcy or in recovery, relying solely on a fixed salary is like sailing with a single sail on a stormy ocean. Diversifying income sources is one of the most effective strategies for building financial resilience. Data from recent economic reports, such as those from McKinsey & Company on the future of work, indicate a growing trend of workers seeking opportunities in the gig economy and in side hustles to supplement their earnings. These opportunities range from freelancing in areas of their expertise, delivery services, renting out properties, or even selling handmade products online. The essential step is to identify skills and resources that can be monetized. For Ricardo, the turning point began when he dedicated a few hours each week to find design projects on online platforms. Initially, they were small jobs that barely covered coffee, but over time, and as he built a portfolio, larger, better-paying projects started to come in. This additional income, which he had previously dismissed as insignificant, became a crucial financial cushion. Parallel to seeking side income, understanding smart investments, even with limited capital, became fundamental. Many believe that investing is only for those with significant wealth, but the reality is there are accessible options. Ricardo learned about the importance of starting with low-risk investments, such as exchange-traded funds that replicate the performance of a broad market or government bonds, which offer stability. He also discovered the power of automation. He set up an automatic transfer of a small percentage of his side income directly into a low-cost investment account. The concept of compound interest, which once terrified him when applied to credit cards, now became an ally, showing how small amounts could grow exponentially over time. The combination of consistent side income and the initiation of smart investments transformed Ricardo's situation. He paid off his debts, began building a robust emergency fund, and, most importantly, regained control over his financial life. His story highlights that, even in times of crisis, proactive pursuit of new income sources and education on how to make money work for you are invaluable pillars for building lasting financial security and a more fulfilling life. Clara's financial recovery, that of a librarian from Denver, was an arduous journey. After years of battling overwhelming student loan debts and a mortgage that seemed to never shrink, she finally managed to stabilize her finances by diligently applying the lessons of budgeting, expense cutting, and side income generation. However, she knew that the true victory wasn't merely getting out of the hole, but ensuring she would never fall back into it. Maintaining financial security is an ongoing challenge, demanding vigilance and long-term strategies that are often neglected once the immediate crisis has passed. The common mistake, according to personal finance experts like Dave Ramsey and Sue Zorman, is complacency. Once debts are under control and a small reserve is built, many people relax and revert to old habits, making them susceptible to new financial shocks. To prevent this, the first and most crucial strategy is the automation of savings and investments. Clara set up automatic transfers to her emergency savings and retirement accounts on payday. This effectively removed the temptation to spend the money before it was saved. Reports from the Federal Reserve show that households with automated savings are significantly more likely to have adequate emergency funds. Secondly, it's fundamental to regularly review and adjust your budget. Life changes, and with it, your financial needs and priorities. A budget that worked 6 months ago might not be effective today. Clara set aside an hour each month to review her bank statements, check her spending, and make necessary adjustments. This helped her identify unexpected leaks and reallocate funds to where they were most needed, ensuring her financial plan remained relevant and effective. A third pillar of sustainability is the continuous repayment of debt, with a special focus on high-interest ones. Although Clara had brought her debts under control, she prioritized the complete payoff of her credit card balances and car loan, using either the snowball or avalanche method to gain momentum. Each debt paid off freed up more money for savings and investments, strengthening her financial position. Furthermore, building a robust emergency fund, ideally 3 to 6 months of basic living expenses, is an essential barrier against unforeseen events. Clara, after paying off her consumer debts, focused on building this reserve, which would give her peace of mind in case of job loss or unexpected medical expenses. Finally, ongoing financial education is vital. The financial world is constantly evolving, and staying informed about new investment strategies, tax changes, and economic trends is crucial. Clara subscribed to financial newsletters, listened to podcasts, and read books on personal finance. This continuous learning not only kept her alert, but also helped her identify new opportunities to make her money grow. Clara's story is a powerful reminder that financial security is not a destination, but a continuous journey of learning, discipline, and adaptation, which allows one to build a truly sustainable future.